Hi everyone, my name is Ryan Mullis. You may know me as one of the hosts of We Watch, and today I am in the Hunter Library alley, and I'm going to be selecting a couple of films from their film section, kind of give you a detailed description of what those films are, and also just to showcase what is here at the Hunter Library, really. You know, so many films to choose from. So interesting. I just gotta search around for a second. Jordan Peele's Nope. So me in this film, my story with this film is that back when I was at an apartment, I got an Xbox for like the first time. Just kind of looked in the department one day and I found Nope by Jordan Peele. It's an incredible film. Some people are kind of just saying, like, you know, he's kind of going the same trajectory as like M. Night Shyamalan. Very similar career paths with like classic horror film, underrated gem, and then like the Alien movie. But like, you know, it's still a great time, great visual effects, great acting. I'd highly recommend it. Oh, here it is. Another 2022 film, Men by Alex Garland. Some of you may know he has a new movie out called Civil War. I haven't seen it yet. I'm interested. But this is like his most divisive film. I was very intrigued because I saw a few people that I like and respect give it positive reviews while also retaining the mixed reviews. It's actually pretty decent. I thought it has great filmmaking aspects, really good leading performance by Jesse Buckley. But yeah, that's all. So here. Oh, in the meantime, I did find another film. Watched this in my Halloween marathon this past Halloween. For the first time ever. I'm not a big David Cronenberg guy. I don't mean that I'm like I don't like his films, I just haven't seen many of his films. So this was like one of my real first tastes of Cronenberg, and it is incredible. It is a dark body horror type film that kind of commentates on, you know, obsession with media and, you know, kind of the vulgarity that you can see in media, kind of warping your mind and perspective. Incredible practical effects in it. I'm not a real big fan of the lead performance by James Woods, but he does a decent job. Back to the V's, back to the V's. There it is. The Village. I watched this about 2 years ago on another Halloween, like fall kind of aesthetic, and it was a perfect fall film, in my opinion. A bit of a divisive film. I think it was the first film that people were really like not on board with when it came to M. Night Shyamalan, but he's made so many bad films at this rate that like this is one of the better films in his filmography. It's got great cinematography, pretty decent performances as well. I don't care that much for the twist either, but like other than that, it's still an incredible, enjoyable watch from beginning to end. I was surprised by this one. I rented this here. I've seen this movie before many times, and it is on streaming, so you know it's not like you're deprived of watching Citizen Kane or anything. But I thought this was an incredible box set that I could have like parsed through and stuff like that. It's kind of set up like a Criterion Collection box set, but it's from Warner Brothers. So it's got like all the special editions and stuff like that. It's got this really cool manual with Rosebud on it. And then like, I think it's like a production book or an illustration book with like scenes from the movie and such. So it's a really cool copy. If you want to watch Citizen Kane and get a bit more in-depth detail about it, kind of learn more about it, even though it's like the most talked about film ever, really, in the film world. Yeah, it's one of my favorite films as well, but it's incredible. Yeah, let's see. So, Akira. Right here. I just got this on Blu-ray recently. I also watched Akira but it was like years ago with like a bad dub and like a very grimy effects. But I wrote a paper on it. I rented the film from the library, and it was incredible watching it again. I watched it 2 times for the purposes, so I got to watch it in dub and sub. Really incredible film. One of the best animated films of all time. If you want to watch Akira, it's here at the Hunter Library.
What's your next film, Ryan?
All right, so this is a film called Beloved. It's based off of the novel of the same name by Toni Morrison. And I watched this in my film and literature class. I didn't watch this, however, via this DVD. I could have, but the thing about the Hunter Library that you should probably know is that, they have video options online. So if there's not a DVD, but they do have the film, you can probably get access to it via there. And I did watch it via the Hunter Library website. So it's a good film. It's by the same director as Silence of the Lambs. Oh, okay. It stars Oprah Winfrey, Danny Glover, both giving great performances in it. Really tackling black trauma and, the trauma of dealing with the institution of slavery after being freed. It's a very unique horror film. I would highly recommend it. Got one of my favorite screenwriters adaptation, Charlie Kaufman. Incredible film. I also rented this when I had the chance. I watched it because it keeps going in and out of streaming services, and that's really a cool service that the Hunter Library can provide. Is that you can just come in here and pick up films that you enjoy, but they're just not available anywhere. And Adaptation is an incredible film, a very metatextual film about. Really, it's about the orchid thief, or it was supposed to be a movie about the orchid thief, but Charlie Kaufman lost his mind, I imagine, during the process and trying to adapt it, that he turned the movie into literally about the process of adapting screenplays. So it's just like, and in the end, it actually becomes a decent adaptation of the orchid thief. Surprisingly enough. So incredible film. Mentioned this one might look a little bit off given the poster, but this is Spike Lee's Bamboozled. I watched this very recently and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was incredible. Spike Lee is an incredible director, very thoughtful director, and this one, without spoiling it too much, is about a TV executive who gets incredibly frustrated about the kind of material that he's he wants to produce as a black person making art for black America. So he devised a plan to get himself fired by making a modern minstrelsy show, and it becomes a surprise hit. And it's really tackling aspects of kind of selling your soul, selling yourself for fame, especially through the context of black America. I just want to talk about a couple more things, just choose a couple of films that I haven't seen before, and kind of just take them home with me for a week or so, watch them over exam time, see if they have them. All right, and that's everything that we have, all the recommendations that I have for you today. I hope you got a bunch of great recommendations to watch here at the Hunter Library. I've enjoyed this service while I was a WCU student, for sure, and I can't wait to watch these films as well to cap everything off. Thank you for hosting this section, Hunter Library, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to our last episode of We Watch. My name is Andrew Perez.
And my name is Ryan Mullis, the award-winning
Ryan Mullis is in the building tonight. So, Ryan, after watching your Hunter Library Alley collection, I have to ask, what is your favorite film?
Whoa. Hold your horses there, partner.
Okay.
We're actually going to talk about that in this video, so might as well maybe want to talk about another question.
Okay. That's good. Yeah. What is your favorite film that you've seen at Western Carolina University?
Okay, I mean, that's a better question to kind of start off this episode. So I would say not my favorite film I watched at Western Carolina, but my favorite film experience was going to see Barbie in that packed theater. I think that was the most packed the UC has ever been. It was my second time watching it. It was an enjoyable time the second time. It's just a fun movie, and it's a fun environment to be around. But what was your favorite film experience so far at Western Carolina University?
That was a good pick. I do remember the line being super long for that. Mine's got to be Blue Beetle, because that's when I first got here. That was the first movie we saw together. First episode ever. It was just a fun experience. There was not a lot of people in the theater. That was the first movie I saw at Western Carolina. It was fun. We got to be loud in the theater. It was definitely an enjoyable watch. And overall, I thought it was a really good movie. And I enjoyed it. It was a good experience.
Yep.
So Ryan, now that we've answered our questions, why don't we get into your list of your favorite films of all time?
Oh yes, we might as well kick it off. And I would like to preface: this is not a definitive list. I am, in fact, a cinephile, so I'm watching movies all the time.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm going to continue to watch movies after my time here at Western Carolina University, so this could change with time. This could be a good marker of my taste right now in this moment today, and kind of reflect on it, like all of us film enjoyers should do.
Oh, yeah.
But without further ado, let's get into the list.
Oh, yeah. Before we get into the list, we have this beautiful art that my friend Ella did for us.
Yes.
As you can see, it's me and Ryan. We got all the characters that we reviewed over the year.
Bella Baxter, we got Chainsaw Man,
Oppenheimer, and of course the GOAT Godzilla. And then we got me and Ryan right there. So shout out to Ella. Some beautiful art. So yeah, let's get into this list. So Ryan, why don't you kick us off with our first film?
Yep, I have already talked about this on multiple occasions, but one of my favorite films of all time is The Lighthouse by Robert Eggers. We actually mentioned it in our Midsummer review when talking about our favorite A24 films. I've already, if you've watched any of these episodes before, you know my opinion about The Lighthouse, but I'm just going to reiterate it here. An absolutely transcendent cinematic experience that does so much with so little. It's got very, throwback style cinematic techniques with the 4:3 aspect ratio, the black and white cinematography, but it still has this haunting, lingering atmosphere built off of a stellar soundtrack, great cinematography, two incredible lead performances by Robert Pattinson and Willem Dafoe, especially Willem Dafoe, who gives one of the best performances of the 2010s. It's a shame he was not nominated for it. But stellar film all around. It's kind of neck and neck between this one and like Parasite, but if I had to go with my personal favorite, my personal gut feeling, what I enjoyed the most, what resonated with me the most, it would be The Lighthouse,
Oh, yeah, most definitely.
Parasite barely missed the mark of this list, I will say. It is an incredible film. But let's go ahead. Do you have any thoughts about The Lighthouse?
I agree with you. I love The Lighthouse. It definitely is one of my favorite films of the past couple of years. I love the directing. I love the cinematography. It looks very beautiful. It's just very haunting. You can just look at it for a long time. You get so many different feelings. Like I said, like you said, I think Willem Dafoe's performance is really amazing. I think he was snubbed at the Oscars. And overall, this is one of A24's best films. And yeah, I think it's a really good movie overall. So Ryan, why don't you talk about your next film?
All right, my next film is another film that I just watched recently on Netflix again, just out of not really just curiosity, just craving to see it again because it's been such a long time. And it's by one of my new favorite directors working today, Damien Chazelle. It's his semi-debut, I guess. It was the one that made him big. It's Whiplash. Such a emotional, chaotic journey from beginning to end, really tackling the frustrating relationship between student and teacher, especially, and trying to carve out your identity and make your passion, make it in this world with your passion in the face of like absolute scrutiny and how that kind of drives you insane. Like this thing has like such a pulsating energy to it from beginning to end, from its editing, its cinematography, its again, another dual performance. We're sensing a theme here between Miles Teller and J.K. Simmons, who gives my favorite supporting performance of the decade. Like Terrence Fletcher is one of the most terrifying and also kind of hilarious characters ever put to cinema. But yeah, it's an absolute thrilling ride. I also loved La La Land. La La Land was another film experience that absolutely took my breath away the first time I saw it, and forever it was my favorite Damien Chazelle film. But in retrospect, with it being 10 years out at this point since Whiplash's release, I've grown to appreciate Whiplash a lot more. Just because of its more grounded yet ethereal feel to it. The aura around this film is just so intoxicating and so terrifying. I love it. Absolutely.
No, I 100% agree with you. This movie just feels like one long, like emotional roller coaster. I love the music in this so much. It's so beautiful. I love the directing. I love the editing so much. I love the music just matches up with the editing so well. They'll play music and just the cuts, it just flows with the music very well. And he won an Oscar for his supporting. J.K. Simmons won an Oscar for this
well-deserved.
Role. Well-deserved. It is one of the best performances. It is very haunting. He's a very intimidating and scary character, yet they give him human elements throughout the film as well, so you're not really 100% sure which side you're on with him, which I think is really great directing. And like you said, this is Damien Chazelle's breakout role, or his breakout film right before he made La La Land. I'm a big fan of La La Land, but this is also such an incredible movie. He really knows how to make great movies with music, and I think it's just one of the better ones out there. You see a lot of like music biopics just about like happiness. This really shows the dark side of the music industry and how rough it can get just to get to your dream. But I think it's really good. I love this film. I honestly think it's a perfect movie, and overall it's a really good movie. But yeah, Ryan, what's your next film?
All right, so the next film that I want to talk about, this is a deeply personal film to me. I mentioned him in my, Hunter Library collection thing with adaptation. This is the directorial debut of Charlie Kaufman called Synecdoche, New York. It's a deeply personal film to me, and it's probably going to be deeply personal to anyone who watches it. It is a film about our kind of just like our life and our mortality, how much time we have left on this earth and what we can do with it. And it's centered around this character called Caden Conder, who's a film, not a film director. He's a stage director, and he's making this. And he has like a bunch of health scares midlife, like through his life. He also is experiencing divorce, on the spot divorce because his like wife leaves him and stuff like that. So he's starting to feel about his limited time on Earth, and he makes this grand, bombastic stage performance that kind of mimics real life, and it's so ambitious it takes years to complete. And he's doing it ultimately because he wants to leave his mark on the world. And it's just such an emotional film. It's kind of a film that will kind of mess with your head if you're not ready for it. Philip Seymour Hoffman gives an incredible performance in it, and it's so potent given the fact that he is long since passed since the film came out, considering the themes of the movie. This film on multiple levels is just incredible. There are just so many details and layers and metaphors hidden within it, both visually and spoken through the script. Like Charlie Kaufman is just an absolute genius when it comes to like hiding that in kind of stuff in plain sight. The score is incredible. It's by John Bryan. You may know him from Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, Punch Drunk Love. He did Lady Bird soundtrack. He also produces albums for artists like Fiona Apple, Mac Miller, or used to do for Mac Miller. There's another one about untimely passing. But his score for this is incredible. My favorite. What else do I have to say about this film that hasn't already been said? It's just incredible. I know it's a bit more underground, but people who see it love it, are kind of horrified by it, but then learn to kind of like appreciate it and accept it in the same way that we kind of do things like mortality in our lives. And I think it's a hauntingly beautiful and ambitious movie that deeply resonates with me.
Oh yeah, I have sadly not seen this film yet. I've heard only good things about this. Like you say, it sounds very interesting. I love Charlie Kaufman. He's one of the GOATs, as they say. I really love his directing. I didn't know this was his directorial debut. I definitely will watch this as soon as I can. But yeah, I'm excited to watch it, and I'm glad that you enjoy it. It does look very, very good. And I do like the soundtrack. Like the person you said, he does make very good soundtrack. So I'm excited to see what he does with this movie. But yeah, overall good. What's your next film, Ryan?
All right, so this one is the most recent all-time favorite that I saw. It's one of my favorite directors, David Lynch. I appreciate the man quite a bit as an auteur, and Mulholland Drive is just such a different beast of a movie. It is about two women who live in Hollywood and trying to make it into the industry, and the psychological trauma and toll that the industry can take on you. It's such a... I've only watched it once, so there's going to be layers I'm going to pick up on multiple viewings, but already I'm just in love with the intoxicating atmosphere that you should expect from a David Lynch film so much. It's been lingering in my head for months now. I cannot wait to see it again and dissect it. Apparently this was supposed to be a pilot for a TV show, like the same way that Twin Peaks was, but they couldn't really get that off the ground, so he just made it into a movie. But yeah, it's an incredible piece of cinema, one that people are growing to appreciate more and more with time. And I absolutely enjoyed it. Have you seen Mulholland Drive?
I sadly have not. I'm a big David Lynch fan. This is one of the ones I've not seen, though. But like you said, he knows how to make great films and great TV shows. So I'm very looking forward to this. I've seen a couple clips on YouTube, and it looks amazing. It has great reviews, but I definitely is on my list, and I will watch this as soon as I can. But overall, it looks very good, and I am a giant David Lynch fan, like I said. But yeah. What's your next film, Ryan? All
right. Now, this one's the most deeply personal to me. It's the one that's been with me pretty much all my life, I imagine. It's The Lion King. I'm a big animation fan. We probably know that from our discussions about animation on this channel. But you're probably wondering why I'm not picking a more like auteur-driven film, like a Ghibli film or something like that, and I'm doing such an industry film like Disney. It's just because of the deep emotional and personal connection I have with this film, on top of it being a transcendent animated cinematic experience. It's got such deep, layered themes that have stuck with me forever, like destiny, the circle of life, the fact that you have a purpose that you have to fulfill in life, even if you're not ready for it. It's deeply impactful, and on top of that, it's just like, this is the most gorgeous animated film ever. Like, every time I watch it, I'm just floored by the fact that this was made by people. You know, and like a bit of the historical fact about this movie is like, this was made by Disney's B team. The A team was making Pocahontas, which they thought was going to be the big Oscar player. Ironically, this is the one that took home 2 Oscars, was the song and score. But that's the other aspect to it. I love the score of this film. It's all-time great by Hans Zimmer. Just so impactful every time I listen to it. The songs written by Tim Rice and Elton John are incredible, especially The Circle of Life, one of the best opening sequences to an animated film ever, period. I love the voice acting in this movie. Everyone talks about James Earl Jones as Mufasa, but not enough people talk about Jeremy Irons as Scar. He gives such a menacing performance. If I were to do an award show for 1994, I would definitely give Jeremy Irons Best Supporting Actor for that absolute like towering performance that he gives as Scar. But I love this movie. I've loved it since I was a kid, and I've grown to just appreciate it more and more as an adult. And an animation fan, so Do you have any thoughts about The Lion King?
I mean, it's hard to say what hasn't been said already. This is one of the greatest animated pictures of all time. This movie does resonate with me a lot. Like you said, you know, we both love animation. This movie is just amazing. Like you said, it is hard to believe it's made by humans. Every frame just looks so beautiful, so filled with emotions. It's so hard to draw animals and give them facial expressions. They do it so well, and the score is just perfect. I remember The Circle of Life. I Can't Wait to Be King, just songs that always stuck in my head since childhood. This film is just overall perfect. I love the performances. This is a retelling of Hamlet, so I mean, a story as old as time, but just done so well. And this is definitely one of Disney's magnum opuses, I'd like to say. But overall, it's just such an amazing film. If you haven't seen this, this is a must-watch for anybody of all ages. This is not a kids movie. You think of Disney movies, not kids. This is a all ages movie. Anybody at any age can appreciate this. This is overall a masterpiece.
Yes.
A great film. So Ryan, what is your next film?
All right, the next film is another personal favorite of mine. It's The Empire Strikes Back. And the thing is that the UC actually finally hosted movies again during May the 4th. They showed the entire original Star Wars marathon, and we at least saw 2 of them.
Yeah, right? We did see the first 2.
And obviously the second one was Empire Strikes Back. It is just one of the greatest sequels ever created. Probably the greatest sequel ever created. Maybe The Godfather Part 2 could beat it out just by a margin. Like, this film was just probably one of the most hotly anticipated films of all time. Star Wars was such a cultural moment in the 70s, and it still is a cultural moment today when you think about it. It's kind of, people are starting to experience fatigue given how Disney has handled Star Wars. But, you know, this is still an incredible film to this day, an incredible film at all different angles. I'm actually doing my final paper on this film, talking about it through the lens of genre theory, and one of the key stones of that would be hybridity. And this has so many genres just baked into it. I mean, there's sci-fi, the obvious one. There's a war film. It's a drama. There's tragedy. There's, you know, hints of samurai. There's romance as well. Getting to watch this in a theatrical setting as well for the first time via the UC was also very impactful. Actually, for the first time ever, started tearing up during Han Solo's quote-unquote death scene. He doesn't actually die, of course. Spoiler alert. But, you know, it's still very impactful. And another spoiler that everyone knows, even if you haven't watched the film, like that reveal about, you know, Luke Skywalker being the son of Darth Vader is just like the most iconic. You know, like one of the most iconic reveals and twists in like cinematic history, and it's so impactful once you consider the fact of like Luke's Jedi training and how much faith he has put into like this image of his father and having it be shattered in front of his face. It's just so excellently portrayed. I also love the score for this, of course. What is it?
John Williams.
John Williams.
Oh yeah.
Does this? This is the first time ever that I realized that the Imperial March came from this movie.
Oh yeah.
Not from the original. I don't know why it took me forever to realize that, but like that new addition to that soundtrack was like incredible, so iconic. But yeah, it's an incredible movie. I absolutely love the original Star Wars trilogy, and this is the king of the crop, in my opinion. What do you feel about Empire Strikes Back?
Like that Lion King, this is one of the, I think, one of the best films ever made. Like, Star Wars is definitely one of the most influential film franchises of all time, and I did get to see it the other day, and it truly was magical seeing it in the theater. That's the first time I've ever seen that in a theater. I've seen this movie about 1,000 times, but seeing it in the theater really did change me. I love every aspect of this movie. It is so amazing. Like you said, it is probably the most famous, probably the best sequel of all time. Not only that it adds to the story, but it adds new characters, it adds new elements, it brings the story along. It doesn't repeat elements from the first movie. It truly feels like you're on this adventure with the crew, and you're growing with the crew. You see them grow as characters. And like you said, the Luke, I am your father, one of the probably the most iconic line of all time, has been said millions of times ever since it came out. It's just such a beautiful, perfect movie. I love the directing. I love the special effects. The Jim Henson puppets Yoda is one of the best special effects I've ever seen. This is a time before CGI, so all of this was practical.
It's so convincing.
It looks so good. The puppets look so real. It's amazing.
Yes.
And I love the AT-ATs, of course. They look so good, too. All the special effects in this movie look overall awesome. I love how the characters grow through the film. I love the drama in the middle. And I love the final act is just so good. Luke facing his fear, like you said, he thought his father was such a good guy, just to find out his father is the one who's causing all of his pain, really just like changes the whole situation. It really is one of the most impactful moments of all time. My favorite personally is Return of the Jedi, but this is the second. I love The Empire Strikes Back. It is such a perfect movie. I'm a ginormous Star Wars fan. And like you said, like when we were reviewing Blue Beetle, people are kind of having that fatigue of, sci-fi Star Wars movies and superhero movies. So people are like this, but whenever they talk about the original trilogy, it is only high moments. It is only highlights. I don't think I've ever heard a bad thing about the original trilogy besides, Adam
from YMS
giving it all a 1 star.
He's just tired of Star Wars in general, I guess.
Horrible review. But overall, this movie is just perfect. Like you said, it's awesome. If you haven't seen the original Star Wars trilogy, please watch it. It will only benefit you. It's amazing. So, yes, Ryan, what's your next film?
The next film on my list is another all-time classic, of course. It's up there on many, greatest films of all time, very highbrow cinema. It's The Godfather, of course, and I've watched The Godfather so many times. It's a film that I could watch forever and never get tired of it, just for how expertly executed it is on so many fronts, like the writing, the feel, the mise-en-scène of the film. The performances are all incredible. One of the best ensembles of any film ever. You've got giants of the industry like Robert Duvall, Marlon Brando as Vito Corleone, Al Pacino as Michael Corleone. This is kind of its inception point where he's getting into the industry. What a great film to kind of break out into with Michael Corleone, one of his most iconic roles to this day.
Most definitely.
You got John Cain playing Sonny. It's just stacked with talent from the 1970s all across the board. And on top of that, it's just like such an gripping film about, the inner workings of the crime world, one that we really hadn't seen up until that point due to, the Hays Codes being so prevalent within the Hollywood system and it limiting what you could see. This one definitely brought out the violence of the mafia in such a way that we hadn't seen before, showing those montage of real life mob hits on top of the fake ones that were made up for the movie with the makeup and such. But it's also just a gripping kind of tragedy as well, about a man succumbing to the sinister nature of his family rather than living a good, decent life with Michael Corleone. It starts off as a pretty good, decent person, but due to the circumstances in his family, whether it be multiple crime hits on his father or spoiler alert, again, if you haven't seen The Godfather, how? But Sonny does die eventually. He's supposed to take up the mantle of the Corleone family.
Oh, yeah.
And that puts Michael in the position of actually becoming the Godfather later down in the role, and it just kind of like degrades his character a little bit in the best way possible, of course. Just seeing how a man can, what we perceive to be a good person can be corrupted so easily.
Oh, yeah.
Just by his family unit. But it's absolutely amazing. One of the most stellar cinematic experiences you could watch, I feel.
Yeah.
I think anyone can love this movie, you know. But how do you feel about The Godfather?
I'd say this is one of the greatest films ever made, honestly. Probably the most famous film ever made. As a film student, we study this all the time, multiple times a year. This is Francis Ford Coppola's masterpiece. This film really is a masterpiece. 3 hours long. It's one of the best paced films I've ever seen. This is a core memory for me. I remember watching this with my dad. It really changed my life. This film is just so amazing. Every element of any film ever is pretty much in this film. I love the directing. I love the music. I love the acting. The performances are so amazing. And once again, like the special effects are so good, especially the blood and the gun action scenes. The car explosion is so good. You really feel like you're watching an entire lifetime of family in this film. You see the kids grow up. You see them become adults. You see them take over. It really is so episodical. It really is beautiful. There's so many scenes that resonate with me. The car explosion scene, whenever he goes back to Italy, that final closing scene is probably the best closing scene of any film ever. It is so haunting and so perfect. It just leaves you just stunned. It left me stunned. I just thought about it for so long. Some of the shots in this movie are just so well done. And the intro, too, is so good as well. That whole first party scene is so beautiful. And there's so many layers to this movie. I think this is one of the best written films of all time. Overall, if you haven't seen this film, you must. It is a must. This is probably the most famous film of all time. So many different directors started off with this film. This is one of the most influential
Definitely
films of all time.
ushered in on toward.
Oh, yeah, most definitely.
Cinema within the mainstream Hollywood circle.
Oh, yeah,
in the
most
1970s.
definitely. But just the first one alone, just so perfect. But yeah, like you said, I don't think people realize, like, until the 70s, there was a lot of censorship in movies. Like, they cannot show a lot of violence. They couldn't show nudity. They couldn't show even toilets at some point.
Yeah.
But I think this film really did change the way that we see cinema forever. Swept the Oscars, swept the cinema. It was just amazing. Overall, perfect film.
Yes.
Yeah, very good movie. What's your next film, Ryan?
All right, so the next film on my list is 2001: A Space Oddity, another film that is, seen as one of the greatest films of all time.
Oh, yeah.
Tops many's list, and it's by one of my favorite directors of all time, maybe my personal favorite director, Stanley Kubrick. You just look at his filmography, and it is
All
just
hits.
stacked. You had that classic Christmas enjoyable romp with Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman and Eyes Wide Shut.
Family movie. I love that family movie.
You got Full Metal Jacket. You got
Clockwork Orange.
Barry
Lyndon.
The Shining. Like, it's just stacked with classic after classic, and even then, one of his earlier films in his filmography still stands as king, as one of the most intense cinematic experience that you can see. One of the most transformative cinematic experience you can see. This film has not aged a day. It's made in the 1960s. It doesn't look like it at all. It looks so modern. It looks so futuristic even in its portrayal of space. And, on top of that, it's so rich with themes about, mankind's own self demise and stuff like that through our progression with technology.
Oh, yeah.
And discovering, process of discovering, especially through the angle. It's also kind of resonating nowadays, especially with the character of Hal.
Oh, yeah.
Disobeying orders and going rogue, especially when you think about AI in the modern landscape.
Definitely.
So it was definitely it's a film that's tackling themes and subject matters that are so ahead of the curve. I've unfortunately not watched this in a theater environment. I want to watch it in a theater environment. It's still incredible film without that context. But, like, I've heard if you're watching this, it's like your mind's just going to get blown again. It's going to be like watching it for a new time.
Oh, yeah.
I had that feeling with Inception, really, when we saw that.
We saw it in theater, yeah.
When we saw that in Nashville.
It really did change, yeah.
But it really changed my perspective of that film. But still an incredible film. I love Stanley Kubrick. I love sci-fi movies, as you can tell from my listing here. But this is definitely like, you know, the Thinker Man's sci-fi film. You know, in the same way that like kind of like Dune is or whatever. But I love it intensely. How do you feel about 2001?
I remember seeing a video about Stanley Kubrick and how they said Stanley Kubrick really did, you could argue, made the best film for every genre ever. And I really do agree with that in some aspects. I love Stanley Kubrick. He's one of my favorite directors of all time. Barry Lyndon is probably top 10 films of all time. I love Clockwork Orange as well. But I love 2001 Space Odyssey. Like you said, it aged so like fine wine, so good. It still resonates today for a lot of people, especially the relationship between human and technology, like you said, with AI and growing, you know, robotics, you know, AI taking over today. I think, you know, it's a tale, you know, for generations to warn us, you know, of technology and how it can really doom our universe. I love the effects in this film so much. I read that this was one of the most expensive films ever made and went over almost $30 million over budget. This is insanely made. It feels like you're in space. The effects, the floating, all the sets look so amazing. It looks like they just pulled it from space. It just looks amazing. I love the acting too. The actors give such great performances, and the soundtrack is so haunting. You feel the emotions that the characters are in through it. And overall, I love this film. It has one of the most iconic opening scenes of all time. They reference it in Barbie as well.
Oh yeah.
That was very funny. With the bone flying and stuff with the monkeys. Overall, I really do love this movie. I consider this a perfect film. I would love to see this in theaters as well. One of the greatest sci-fis of all time, and also just one of the greatest films of all time, really showing the connection between human and technology. And like you said, it was made in the 60s. It does not feel like that at all. It looks like modern cinema at some parts. Overall, it aged really good. Highly recommend it. A great film. But yeah, what was your next film, Ryan?
The next film on my list is another deeply personal film. I watched this in high school, and I've loved it ever since. It shows how great filmmaking can be on such a limited and enclosed environment. It's 12 Angry Men, and really it's a great showcase of how you can make a great film with just an ensemble cast, one location, great script, great directing, and great filmmaking, just like so insular as well. And it's a gripping film about trying to convince a room of people who are not quite into like the idea of doing jury duty, in order to convince them that the person that's standing trial for murdering their father, or that they didn't do it, or there's not enough evidence to make the claim of that.
Oh yeah.
And it's just such a gripping film from beginning to end. Again, it takes place in one location all throughout, and it keeps me engaged all throughout with the convincing arguments, right down to the foil of the character, like standing his ground for her own personal and bigotry reasons and stuff like that. And it's just so it's gripping from beginning to end, and it's a great guideline. I remember seeing a YouTube series about. It's a great guideline in trying to convince people of your arguments or how to make arguments as well. So if you're trying to look at that like you're having like a frustrating encounter with like a friend, and you're not engaging with your points or being moved by them at all, probably give this film a watch. You could convince people of a lot of things just by the kind of tactics that are brought about in this film.
Oh yeah.
But how do you feel about 12 Angry Men?
I sadly have not seen this movie yet. I know I need to. I've seen clips of it, and it looks amazing. I understand it's on the IMDb's 100 of all time, top 10 of all time. It looks amazing. I love films that take place in one room, like The Whale. I loved High and Low. So I'm very excited to see this film. We saw, it kind of is giving like vibes of Anatomy of a Fall with the courtroom. So I'm very excited to see this. Overall, it looks amazing.
Yeah.
I've heard the performances are some of the best ever given, and I'm sure that the top 10 of all time is deserved, and I'm very excited to see this film.
Yeah, and it's also by Sidney Lamont. He's kind of underrated in the realm of classic cinema directors, so I just wanted to throw that out. Dog Day Afternoon.
So I've seen that as a fantastic
it's a credible film.
It is a very good film. But yeah, I think we have one more film. It was Orson Welles' Citizen Kane. Ryan, why don't you kick us off for our last film?
Alrighty, so Citizen Kane is. Do I even have to talk about Citizen Kane?
Yes.
I even mentioned it in my Hunter Library review, my Hunter Library Alley video. That like it's the most talked about film of all time. It's the most discussed film of all time, and there's a reason for that. It's one of the most revolutionary films, I think, period. When this film came out, it really shook up the game a lot. Before then, Hollywood films were all, like, directors really didn't matter all that much outside of a select few.
Yeah, very corporate films.
Yeah, like, all films were ran through the, the industry, the company that was making it, like Warner Brothers and MGM at the time. But then along came, Citizen Kane and what was it, RKA or whatever? RKO were looking for a filmmaker to kind of springboard them up, and there's this Orson Welles guy who made this viral, what at the time would be considered viral, radio broadcast of World of the Worlds and how realistic it was. Kind of got him some hot water, but that got him on blast. But it also got him noticed, and they reached out to him and said, "Hey, you can make like this. You have complete Final Cut rights." And he made one of the most insane films of all time, especially at the time. It's a film about a man, his legacy, and people trying to grapple with that legacy, figure out itty bitty. What kind of life you can live, and what that life means, and ultimately, Citizen Kane just lives this very luxurious life that's full of fame and glory, and he's running a successful newspaper. He runs for office, but by the end of it all, it leaves him a empty, hollow man with no real satisfaction. Because he's kind of like. Which is very real to a lot of figures at the time, and especially today when you think about like those kind of people. But besides just like the story of the film, it's also just an incredible filmmaking achievement. It's adapting new techniques that are very normal and standard today. That's why a lot of people aren't really in love with this film anymore, because of the fact that it's just like it's just been done over and over again because of this movie. But this is ground zero for a lot of cool film techniques, like putting a camera in the ground and getting those perspective shots and different angles. Having a camera come from a shot to the outside and zoom back in the inside. A lot of the camera movements like that. A lot of intimate and granular, cinematic scope scenes. Like on a cinematic. I'm a big cinematography guy, and this has such incredible cinematography to this day. And it's a big reason why I love it, along with everyone else. But it's a groundbreaking cinematic achievement. There's a reason why it's still topping lists to this day. It's just too important to cinema to ignore. How do you feel about Citizen Kane?
I am in love with this movie. I love this movie. I think this is IMDb's #1 next to The Godfather. This is probably one of the first art movies ever made. Truly did change the game. Like you said, Orson Welles was a big figure back then with his radio broadcast, the Orson Welles Theater, doing War of the Worlds, Dracula. Zooming out to his parents talking and then keep zooming out. It is one of the first zoom out shots ever. It really invented a lot of techniques that we use in modern cinema, and it really did it paved the way as we see movies. I've seen a lot of movies from the 20s and 30s, and they are just still shots. Just characters talking. Once in a while they have a scenery shot, but just basically characters talking, interacting. Early cinema was basically just a recorded stage play. They did not play with the cameras a lot, and I think Orson Welles took that opportunity to really change the game and not make it like a stage play, make it its own thing, which I think he did amazing. Like The Godfather, this is a very episodical film. You see a person go through their entire life until death. That opening scene, honestly, one of the most iconic opening scenes of all time.
Yes.
The shots in this movie are so good. I always will remember the shot of him walking in the hall, and you just see the mirror, and you see his reflection in the mirror hundreds of times. Just so amazing. Him in the newspaper room with the lighting, so good. They really did play with lighting a lot. They invented a lot of techniques for this film.
And I won't spoil what Rosebud's all about. You should actually experience that for yourself. Because I even though this is like one of the most talked about films of all time, a lot of people unfortunately haven't seen it because they're kind of like, they're intimidated by it. With it being like considered
40s,
the greatest film of all time, and also being so old at this point. But
this should not intimidate. It's a fantastic
film. It's essential viewing experience for any film fan out there. I feel.
It is definitely, like you said, one of the most famous films of all time. Overall, I also consider this a perfect movie. It changed the way we see movies forever. Took away that stage play aspect, really made film its own thing. And Orson Welles really is one of the most famous, people of all time, and he really did change the way. Some people call him the greatest director of all time. I don't know if I'd go that far, but he really did change the game.
The thing about it, Orson Welles is like, he's never made a film. Like, he kind of suffered from debut syndrome because he never really made a film on the level of this. Some people have said, like, the final cut of his next film,
lost a lot of his stuff. He had a very not the great end of his life. He tried to make a lot of movies that got scrapped and canceled. I remember watching a video about that. But this film is still a magnum opus today. One of the greatest films of all time, and just such an amazing movie. So yeah, Ryan, what are your overall thoughts about all these films? How have they changed you? What do you think about all these movies?
I think that these films have just enriched me so much as a film enjoyer, whether they be films that I've enjoyed since I was a child or films that I have recently watched that are just stuck in my head over and over again. I can't stop thinking about them. And I can't wait to have similar experiences with other films. Like the other day I watched a film called Love Exposure.
It's
a 4-hour movie. So anyone who's like, ooh, we trust these guys, I'm going to go watch that movie. Like, it is 4 hours. It is
just
weird.
Warning,
It's very weird, kind of perverted as well, subject matter. But it is an insane movie about, it's an insane movie about, sin, how religion and love just drive us crazy and the people around us. So that film's been stuck in my head as well. And I can't wait to see how much I think about that for the rest of time. And all the other movies I have 1,000 movies on my watch list on Letterboxd.
compared to my one on Letterboxd.
So when I start to weasel those down and start enjoying those films or not enjoying those films and keep building myself as a film appreciator, the more well off I'll be in the future, I'd say, as a critic. And hopefully this is not the end of the road for me doing this kind of stuff on YouTube. Especially, I think I want to do YouTube content once I'm done here at Western Carolina. I don't know how soon that's going to be on. I have to, got to get the equipment for that kind of stuff, get set up for that kind of stuff, give you all live updates about the films I've been watching and whatever. All these films are incredible. And I can't wait to eventually watch them again. And appreciate them even more and watch even more films down the road. And have those build my taste.
I'd say one of the reasons me and Ryan are good friends is because we have a lot of very good similar film interests. We have this list. We had a lot of the similar favorite movies. These films have also really changed me a lot as a person. As a filmmaker, these films inspired me a lot as well. I love most of these films. They have changed me as a person. They've always stuck with me. And there's a lot of films that we didn't get to talk about. We saw Inception. We saw the Spy Family movie, which was awesome. We got to see so many films throughout the year. And, it's been an honor to be on this show. Like we said, sadly, this is Ryan's last episode, but we hope that he continues to create good content and make more, film reviews in the future. And we know that Ryan is off to do some great things in the future. Recording. So we wish you the best of luck, Ryan. It has been an honor to have you as our host on this show. And I just wanted to say thank you so much to WeTV for allowing me to come on. this program, allowing to take a chance to let me also co-host this show. It has been a complete honor. I've loved this show. This has been the highlight of my semester. The last 2 semesters, I've loved being a co-host.
I would also like to give a thanks to WeTV. They helped me get out of my shell. You know, I only really started out my first few years here behind the scenes, doing camera work, doing, you know, floor management stuff, never really volunteering for that on-camera stuff. But, you know, something about me, you know, I just love talking about movies. I love talking about music also. I'm very opinionated about media, so getting to do the show was a great pleasure. And I'm highly appreciative of this club for giving me the outlet to do that.
I do appreciate this club a lot. I love talking about movies as well, and it did take me a bit to get out this show, but I appreciate just WeTV taking the chance to allow me to come on here, and I appreciate you. I remember when I first got here, you're the person who showed me how to use the cameras. My first ever.
You're my first camera guy.
I
know most about these cameras.
A teacher and friends. This has been a complete honor. So we will continue the show next year, of course, but we know Ryan's on to do some great things. So we hope that you guys look out for that. And yeah, it has just been, you know, it's sad to say goodbye, but you know, we're gonna come back. Ryan's gonna come back. It's gonna be good. I know you're gonna have a bright future. It's gonna be good. And just one last thank you to WeTV. Thank you to all the viewers. Thank you to all of our fans who watched it, and thank you to Last Minute Productions for showing most of the films that we got to review this semester. And
get those licensing rights. So
get those. For more next semester, we'll review some more movies. But why don't you outro the show out one last time, Ryan?
Alrighty, thank you very much for watching, and keep
watching movies.